Left 4 Dead is a timeless masterpiece, and I want to tell you why. It came out in 2008, but despite that, it somehow feels like Left 4 Dead is more of a modern game than some modern games are. How has this game aged so well, and what does it do to make its gameplay so repeatable? Well, let's jump right into that, shall we? Valve has always been really good at revolutionizing the industry in some way whenever they release a new game. And when Left 4 Dead came out 13 years ago. 13 years, was it really that long ago? Jeez. And when Left 4 Dead came out 13 years ago, one of the many things that it brought to the table was its dynamic animation system. Such a big part of the game is all about shooting zombies, obviously, so they wanted to make that part of the game feel responsive and realistic. So they hired stuntmen to model dozens of different dying animations that would dynamically play depending on how the zombie died. Where it was shot, how many times it was shot, and what it was shot with would all change the way the zombie ragdoll fell down in real time. Zombies realistically stumbling and falling into walls and into each other makes it feel much more visceral and real than it would do otherwise. It might seem trivial by today's standards, but at the time, this tech that allowed them to do this was super innovative, far more complex than the usual ragdolls that most games had. And having said that, the spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead, called Back 4 Blood, released just 3 months ago, and it featured none of this, so it can't be that trivial, can it? Left 4 Dead also takes a leaf out of Team Fortress 2's book and uses this sort of cartoonified art style for the game, which aids in making the game not feel as old as it is. Games from 2008 that went for a more realistic art style look terrible by today's standards, but using this very bold cartoon aesthetic with very defined silhouettes makes a game that's 13 years old stand up side by side against games that are 3 months old. And that art style, combined with these super realistic looking animations of all the infected, make Left 4 Dead seem like a brand new game all of these years later. But the animation wasn't the only thing that Valve was revolutionizing when they made this game. If you've ever read up about Left 4 Dead before, then you've probably heard of the director being mentioned before. The director is an AI that is in charge of dictating the pacing and difficulty of the game. Left 4 Dead has no fixed enemy spawns. Instead, the AI director will spawn in enemies based on the player's performance. If it thinks the players are having too easy of a time getting through the levels, it will spawn more zombies in more locations. If it thinks they're struggling, it will do the opposite, backing off on the zombie spawns in certain places. So whether you're stomping the game or being stomped by the game, the AI director will still give you some room to breathe to make the pacing feel fun. The director is one of the major things that Left 4 Dead's gameplay does so well. It gives the game tons of replay value, and it means that anyone of any skill can have fun no matter what. And if you've ever played Versus mode, you'll know that the game's pacing can be very strange in that game mode, because the special infected are now controlled by human players, and those human players are not affected by the director, so the pacing will vary wildly from game to game. But the AI director is what makes the magic of Left 4 Dead. It makes the game feel like it was perfectly scripted for the events you're experiencing to happen, while also making it so that no two runs will ever be the same. Its addition to the game is a stroke of genius, and Left 4 Dead has another type of director to talk about too. Left 4 Dead's sound design is completely immaculate. It's definitely the best sound design of any game that I've ever played. And one of the things the game does to nail the sound design in this game is using a music director. Just like the gameplay director, the music director is an AI that handles the music for each player. Everything important in Left 4 Dead has its own music cue. Some of them are super noticeable, like the tank music, and the witch music.
Witch, turn it off.
But every single special infected also has a music cue, like this one for the hunter, or this one for the boomer. Every single special infected in the game has one of these subtle music cues to signify to the player that there is a specific enemy somewhere nearby. There can actually be up to 4 music directors, one for each player, so the music will be tailored to exactly what you need to know personally. If a boomer exploded on you, you get this music. But other players don't hear that if their screens are completely clear. Only big events like tanks, witches, and alerted hordes will have music for every player all at once. Left 4 Dead can be a super chaotic game sometimes, but having these music cues makes the game so much more readable. And it's not just linked to music either. If you're the type of player who likes to turn their music down, you won't be missing out on too much information, since each special infected also has distinct diegetic audio too. The boomer sounds like this, and and the hunter sounds like this.
Sounds like a hunt.
There's no way anyone is going to confuse these two sounds. They'll know exactly what is coming as long as they listen closely. Left 4 Dead has the best sound design in the business, and I will die on that hill. And because of this, if you watch a clip of Left 4 Dead with your eyes closed, you can probably still identify exactly what is going on. That's sound design, baby. Overlooked in games where it's done perfectly but feels like something vital that you just can't put your finger on is missing when it's done poorly. But there's one last thing that I haven't touched upon yet that is clearly vital to the game's success. The Special Infected. Remove the Special Infected from Left 4 Dead and suddenly your game just got a whole lot more brainless. You just shoot at anything that moves and run through every map as fast as possible without any thought or engagement whatsoever. But the Special Infected are designed to force players to work as a team and force players to think about what they're doing. Most of the Special Infected have some sort of way to pin the player down. They take away control from the player and force one of their teammates to come and save them. If one player runs ahead of the pack, a single Special Infected will kill them while their team is way too slow to come and save them. A lesser developer might have been tempted to completely prevent people splitting up, with some sort of leaving the action screen or something like that. But instead of being that heavy-handed, Valve instead just designed their Special Infected to incentivize the gameplay they wanted, instead of forcing it with a heavy hand. But that's not all the Special Infected are there for. They also force you to think about what you're doing instead of just mindlessly shooting everything that moves. If you just shoot without thinking, then the boomer will blind you and attract a horde towards you and get you killed. And the witch will become enraged and barrel towards you and kill you instantly. Suddenly, you have to put some care and thought into the way that you get through the horde, because mindlessly shooting everything will get you into some trouble. Certain Special Infected will also displace survivors, like how the smoker pulls someone towards him.
I'm getting sucked off the map. Oh my god.
This forces teammates to follow along and save the caught player. It also helps for situations in campaigns where you have to wait to be rescued, or wait for a door to open or something like that. In the first Left 4 Dead, they found that in these situations you could just barricade yourself in a corner, and it was far too effective of a strategy. And the Special Infected didn't really have much that they could do about it. So in Left 4 Dead 2, the Charger, Spitter, and Jockey were added to the game. The Jockey and the Charger can displace the survivor just like the Smoker can, pulling them out of their hiding spot and off of ledges or into dangerous areas, which prevents this turtling strategy a little bit more. And the Spitter is essentially a walking Molotov. She spits acid at the survivors' feet and forces them out of their current position, which again makes it much harder to just stand in a corner and wait for whatever event you're in to be over. The Special Infected were essentially a design solution to the problems the early versions of the game had. Mindlessly shooting everything on your screen gets boring after a while, so the abilities of the Special Infected were designed to counter that, and to cause more danger to the player than just the damage they take from being hit by normal zombies. Like I said at the beginning, I think that Left 4 Dead is a timeless masterpiece. It's aged like fine wine, whereas most games age like this. Many a game will come out trying to capture that lightning in a bottle that Left 4 Dead managed to capture. But without such attention to detail and without such technical innovation behind it, I don't think anyone anytime soon is going to manage to dethrone the king of zombie shooters. Thanks for watching.